Welcome, everyone. You know, it's like when I was hearing all that, what I immediately felt was the need to move my body. And I thought, you know, do I walk out here like with this like really slinky, slow bagua walk? You know, like how do I come out onto the floor? I don't know, you know, but what I actually wanted to do is to start and kind of go around the room and just say one word or two, not a sentence, just one word or two that first came to mind when you heard the word soft, just for like some perspective. So let's kind of go around the room, and you can pass. You can just, if you don't have a word, but feel free to just, a word, you know, relaxation. Sophia gave a few words. Let's do a word.
Soft bow. Fluffy. Cozy. Sleeping. Velvet.
Squishy. Fabric.
Lunch. Relaxing. Happy.
I also thought about relaxed.
Comfortable.
My cats. Warm. Mallow. Comforter.
Pillow. Comfortable.
Pedal. Oh. Which way? Which way?
Ugly.
Strength. Soothe. Vulnerable.
My daughter, sometimes. Sofa.
Cozy. Very nice. And did I get? Yes. Yes, okay. All right. Well, you all just relaxed me. Phew. Thank you. Thank you for that. So when I was asked to do this talk, I thought, oh my gosh, this is not a lot of time. I have like a week to pull this together, but in that week I have 50,000 things to do, and I don't even know if I can do this. And then I thought, oh my gosh, you know, Sophia has asked me to be soft. And it's such a beautiful kind of part of our world. When I think of soft, I think of relaxation or receiving. And so my name is Amy. I'm a textile artist. And let me pull up a couple of my slides here. Okay. So I'm a textile artist. I am a designer. I'm an artisan. I'm a surface designer. I'm a fabric creator. I'm a stitcher. Pretty much everything that involves the art of what I do, I've done and I still do. I'm also a movement practitioner. I'm a movement instructor. I'm a teacher of textiles. That could be internal, like as in our fascia. It could be external, as in what we wear. And so I have such a deep love of textiles. And I certainly think of textiles when I think of softness, unless you've all seen the IKEA commercial years ago, which was a brilliant commercial, and you can look it up online. If you look up IKEA, what is life without textiles? You'll find a very, very funny segment or commercial for the middle of your day to make you laugh. This is a piece that I did many years ago for a Society of Arts and Crafts exhibit. It's called Radius. It's about 6 feet by 6 feet. And it's linen and it's all hand-dyed shibori on a linen base. And so it has many, many layers of work. It was actually about a month's worth of work in terms of first dyeing the fabric, folding the fabric to then create those patterns. This is what's typical of shibori, which is a Japanese art of resist, basically like resist, but resist in a soft way means moving fabric, means kind of pleating and folding and stitching fabric in these beautiful ways to create patterns. So first I folded, then I pleated, then I dyed the fabric, then I cut the fabric, then I rearranged the fabric, then I stitched the fabric. It's pretty intense, and this is actually sort of my version at a particular snapshot in my life of the taijutsu, which is the yin-yang symbol. And many of you might be familiar with this kind of yin-yang symbol, this kind of symbol of the East that is this kind of, on one side, white colored swoop, and on the other side, this black colored swoop. And in the center of the black is a white dot, and in the center of the white is a black dot. And that's a snapshot of yin-yang. It's a snapshot, like as if a photographer took a quick photo of what it is to look at these kind of differences and similarities in life. The yin-yang, or the taijutsu, is basically, it's in essence a toroidal kind of, like a donut that's kind of coming in and out all the time at any given moment, and you are where you are, and you move towards what you need. So the yin-yang quality for me is really important. It's a symbol of a way of kind of looking at life, a way of being in life. It is a way. And when we have all these graphs and charts, and we look at colors, and we look at pie charts, and we look at grids, and we look at all these things to kind of compartmentalize our lives, or come up with systems, because a system kind of helps to create a structure, like almost like our bones, kind of our internal system that then we kind of form things around, right? So we need a structure. We need a structure in order to find freedom in our work. And I'm so grateful to be here at Creative Mornings this morning, because the creativity is so important, and we access that actually through a little bit of structure. We need that little bit of structure to our mornings to create a sense of freedom. So I like to illustrate this through textiles. And part of my kind of relationship with this quality of the yin-yang symbol is understanding relational qualities in our world. And so I just for a moment would like to discuss that, because understanding from a framework of relational qualities in the world constantly brings a sense of connection. It's on the way here, I was a little bit lost. So I came out of some place at Kendall. I don't often come to this neighborhood. I'm in the Seaport in Midway Studios. And so I kind of got a little lost, and I went in one direction, and then my maps kind of scooted me back, and then my maps suddenly didn't work anymore. And so I found my way, and I was kind of remembering, okay, I'm going away from this area, and I'm headed towards this area. That's kind of what the map showed me. And then somebody pointed to a cafe over there, and it said Shy Bird, and I was like, oh, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be, because I'm an introvert. So I was like, this is totally where I'm supposed to be. And of course I walked in, and I said, I'm here for my talk. And they said, oh, okay, well, the Venture Cafe is actually upstairs. But so everything on the way here was relational. And the reason I like that kind of essence of relational qualities is that there's no judgment. There's no judgment. It's just a kind of understanding of nature. Or if you were walking through the woods, you would kind of say like, oh, I'm headed towards that darker side in that direction, or I'm headed towards the lighter side, or where the sun is on the mountain at this particular hour, or I'm headed towards the bird calls. You would just navigate in a way that we've really lost in our society. And I always want to come back to that way. It's a quiet way. Like it's a way of listening. And Irene and I talked about this morning a little bit about sleep and how important it is and the quality of the ear. And so I actually think that the yin yang is almost like two ears. You're like listening to what you need to bring in for your day. Because we all know, right? We all have this internal compass and this internal deep knowledge and deep sense that steers us when we say, oh, I have that intuition, that creative moment. That's our intuition. That's our deepest intuition. And the excitement about being a human being in our world is that we can actually move in the direction that we need. So do we need quiet? Do we need loudness? Do we need sunlight? What do we need? So to show my textiles a little bit, over the years, I thought it would be interesting to look at their relational qualities. And so, very different, right? These are two different pieces of fabric that they all start as white fabric. So again, every time you see color, every time you see texture, that's what I do. That's my practice in the studio. And so on the left, the difference here is materiality. So on the left, we have this organza. It has the saracen from the silkworm, this kind of sticky-like and hard substance that makes the fabric like a paper. And so on the right, that saracen is taken out, and we have this chiffon, this silk flowing chiffon. It's very soft. And here we see something that immediately probably screams soft, right? Softness, softening, which I feel like we need so much in the world today. You know, a quality of, you know, and some people might not. Some people actually might need the quality of kind of a brightening or a hardness. But generally speaking, I think we're in a direction where we can agree that most of us need a kind of quietude, a softness, particularly in this season. So on the left, we have a hand-dyed shibori shawl in wool, and on the right, we have some of the signature stitch work that I've done over the years that was done on top of a pattern that was learned from Japan, from my studies in Japan for many years. This is itajime shibori, and it's a form of clamp folding to create a pattern. It's really funny because the picture on the left here is actually huge. It's a 7 by 7 foot piece, and it's called Resonance. So resonance is all about sound, it's about vibration, it's about this, I think this new direction we're headed in, which creative people really, like we know, but how do we communicate this to the world, right? Resonance is about vibration, it's about energy, it's the quality of, you know, throwing a rock into the middle of a lake and having that kind of spread, right? It's not about so much what do I need somebody else to do, it's about what do I need to do to just have that quality in myself and just let that be, let that spread. And so this was a very large piece, 7 by 7 foot, and you can see where I've chosen to dye the fabric in a traditional shibori pattern, which I won't tell you about. You might have to discover that someday for yourself. But what I did is I cut that pattern. I cut it into tiny strips, and I completely repieced the pattern. So I changed the pattern. And that's a big part of softness too. It can be like, what is the pattern? You know, what is the pattern of your world? You know, whether it's an emotional pattern, a physical pattern, a pattern around you. And so here you can see areas where the pattern flows, and then you can see areas where the pattern is very abrupt. You know, this kind of, looking at the difference, the quality of black and white, or looking at the similarity of flow. So this is that same fabric, but actually totally different piece. And you can see there's not quite as much of that attention to the resonance. It's a bit more of a feeling as I was sitting, just just a kind of quality of whatever music I was listening to, whatever I was doing that day. There was not as much intention behind it. There was actually just a flow. So it was a whatever kind of came to me. And so that's why I made it into a garment. You know, it's about me. It's this blueprint, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, but I mean it's like my blueprint came out in something that I was being very intentional about, taking in these outer sensory experiences, and I brought that into the quality of, you know, just what I was experiencing. There's me working on the studio floor. So again, this is a quality of texture, of kind of breaking down texture like a reductionist in a reductionist way. And on the right side, that's kind of more holistic because the cloth hasn't been broken down. It's being stitched and built up in a different way. And look at this pattern. This is a shibori cloth, just a quick vision of a shibori cloth, and this is this clamshell, this beautiful clamshell pattern. It's like, what is our orientation? You know, what makes something soft? You know, when you look up here, we have this soft, almost like these hot air balloons going into the sky. And when you look at this side, I've changed the orientation so that we have a very different way of looking at what could be waves. You know, it could be these kind of calming waves. Always earth and sky. You know, earth is including water, you know, 70% water. And so these are just some images of early work, just to show, just to have a nice visual, you know, and I would invite you to, and over the course of your day, I would invite you to say, what is it about the course of your day? Like maybe take one mantra or one word that you look for in the day. So if that word is softness today, where do you see softness in this picture? You know, is it in the model? Is it in the fabric? You know, this is a kind of almost hard textile because it's very kind of linear, right? But it's also very soft. So we can't really have softness without hardness when we look at this kind of, this concept of Taiji 2 or yin yang concept. It's like we can't really have one without the other, right? And again, this is that chiffon fabric, that very soft fabric, but it's done in a very linear way. And I've taken that initial shibori fabric and cut it and, you know, dyed, cut, pieced. And this is actually about, in a piece like this, it's about 16 yards of fabric because there's so much layering to this kind of work. Incidentally, I am not a mass production person. I have no interest in really pursuing that quality. I make things based on what clients, and often I'll make things in terms of what I like to do, but I'll also make things based on what clients need. You know, they'll come to me and say, I need a red dress. I need, you know, for a particular moment or a time. You can see the softness here. This is a wool. And what's so interesting as I was putting these slides together is just this idea between soft and hard. You know, if you see something right after the other, it's kind of like looking at colors. When you look at red next to purple, you see a kind of a purpley red, right? And when you look at red next to orange, you might see a warmer red. So again, it's like this relational world that when we remind ourselves of that and we come back to these like very basic principles, right? This kind of quality of just simple relationality, it refreshes us as a creative person, right? This is that hard fabric again, the organza with the glue in it. I love it, but suddenly it's soft, you know, in the way that it's actually shaped, in the way that it's formed around the body. This piece is very interesting because on the left is actually the coat on the right. And if you remember the slide from the beginning where I was showing some technique where I was stitching, that is actually this coat. So I can stitch and create all this stitching on a particular garment, and then it gets scrunched up so it looks like almost nothing. I saw a person waiting for the subway with a labubu, I think that's what they call them, hanging from their bag, and I was like, oh, that's soft. Can I get your picture, you know? And I didn't have time to include it in the slides, but it was kind of wonderful, actually, and the young person was very excited to be included. And so today we can kind of look around at what is soft and where do we want to go? What do we need? Because that is kind of all we can bring into the world, and when we look at it from a relational perspective, it is not selfish. It's really medicine. It's medicine for the world. So thank you.